The initial sound that reached my ears was laughter. Distinctive laughter. Personal. Quiet. Light-hearted. The type that is inappropriate for your residence while you are meant to be at your place of employment. I was not intended to be present in that situation. A meeting has been cancelled. An unexpected, early return. It is interesting how minor disruptions in life can expose the fragility of one's entire reality. I positioned myself in the corridor of our updated brownstone. The one I dedicated 3 years to restoring. The opportunity that my interior design business has finally made possible. The sound of laughter emanated from the upper floor. From our sleeping quarters. The bedroom in our residence. I recall the significant weight of my bag at that moment. As I placed it down quietly, I felt my fingers grow numb around the handle. An instinct within me was already aware. An entity that embodies age, experience, and depth of understanding. The stairs were silent. I repaired them myself last summer while Mark was attending a business conference. I have come to understand that Rebecca and Jenna also attended the same conference under somewhat mysterious circumstances. The components were systematically aligning as I ascended each step. My heart raced intensely, as if it might be audible before I was even seen. I did not force the door open. I refrained from screaming. I turned the handle and applied pressure. They were present. My spouse of 8 years and my 2 closest friends from college. The 3 individuals became intertwined in our Egyptian cotton sheets. The items that Mark had expressed concerns about regarding their cost at the time of my purchase. The sheets were changed just yesterday. Rebecca's vibrant red hair cascaded over my pillow. The designer bracelet that I assisted Mark in selecting for Jenna's birthday last month shimmered on the nightstand. Additionally, Mark regarded me not with shame but with annoyance. The disruption. The challenge of facing unexpected consequences. "Ellie," he remarked, as if I had unexpectedly entered while he was enjoying a snack in the kitchen. "You have returned home early. 15 years of partnership. 8 years of matrimony." He supported me through 3 miscarriages. He assured me that we would continue our efforts after 2 cycles of IVF. The numerous evenings I dedicated to assisting him in preparing presentations. The family gatherings during which I advocated for him in response to my father's criticisms. The mortgage is under both of our names. The life insurance policy is a crucial financial instrument. The collective aspirations. What is the duration? My voice remained steady. I was taken aback by that. Rebecca adjusted the sheet to ensure her modesty. Jenna averted her gaze. Mark was the one who responded. "Is it significant?" He retrieved his cast-off shirt. "It may not align with your assumptions, regardless. This does not align with my perspective. It is difficult to see how discovering your husband in bed with your 2 closest friends could be misunderstood. It has occurred," Jenna finally stated, her voice barely audible. "Has this just occurred?" I reiterated. "All 3 of you have just arrived. To recline in my bed without any attire." Rebecca began to weep at that moment. The flawless tears that maintained the integrity of her mascara. "Our intention was never to cause you any pain, Ellie. It simply... If you mention that it occurred spontaneously once more, I terminated our communication. I assure you, this is true." However, I did not complete the threat. In that moment, observing them hurriedly attempting to conceal themselves with my sheets, appearing vulnerable and exposed, a realization occurred within me. A peculiar tranquility enveloped me. I dedicated all my resources to these individuals. All aspects. My schedule. My esteemed partner. My confidence. My future plans. These individuals were those who had occupied seats opposite me during Sunday brunches. Who was present to hold my hand during my mother's funeral. Who had committed to consistently being present. They have indeed arrived. All of them collectively. In my absence. "Ellie, let's discuss this matter." Mark rose to his feet, adjusting his trousers. "You seem to be experiencing some distress." "I understand. However." Negative response. I spoke in a subdued manner. "At this moment, it is not feasible." I turned around and proceeded back down the stairs. I could hear them calling after me. The hurried rustling as they dressed. However, I was not fleeing. I was not experiencing a breakdown. I was performing calculations. I retrieved my bag from its previous location and proceeded to the kitchen. I filled a glass with water and gazed at the garden I had cultivated last spring. The hydrangeas were at their peak bloom. Blue, as per Mark's preference, while I would have favored pink. They descended the stairs in unison. A procession marked by guilt. Position Mark at the front. The informal representative for this small group involved in the betrayal. Rebecca and Jenna stood behind him, clasping hands as if they were apprehensive children. "Ellie, we should discuss this matter in a mature manner," Mark stated. His professional demeanor. His voice for finalizing the agreement. I took another sip of water and placed the glass down with care on the granite countertop. "I have provided you with all that I could," I stated. Not directed towards Mark specifically. However, to all three individuals. I am committed to my principles, my confidence, my residence. I observed my colleagues, my confidential information. Rebecca reacted with surprise at that. She understood my intention. She was aware of my understanding regarding her. "Individuals can err," Jenna stated softly. I nearly found it amusing. An oversight is failing to remit payment for a bill. An error has resulted in dinner being ruined. I indicated the upstairs area. That was not an error. That was a decision made. A succession of decisions, repeatedly undertaken. Mark approached with a measured demeanor, his hands raised in a calming gesture he often employed with challenging clients. "We can navigate this together. Consideration of couples therapy may be beneficial." He paused, contemplating his next words. "What is it, Mark? A non-traditional marital arrangement? A divorce proceeding? Could you please clarify the specifics of your proposed solution?" The three individuals exchanged glances. It became evident that this had been a topic of prior discussion. They had made arrangements for the possibility of being discovered. "Perhaps a period of separation would be beneficial," Mark finally stated. "I could remain with whom, Mark? In collaboration with Rebecca? In collaboration with Jenna? Do you have another individual that I am not aware of?" His expression became stern. "Your reaction seems to be quite exaggerated." And there it stood. A term historically employed by men to undermine the legitimate anger of women. Highly agitated, deeply affected, and lacking rationality. I acknowledged with a slow nod. "I will be departing now," I stated with composure. "I will exit through that door, and you three may proceed with whatever discussion I interrupted." "Ellie." Rebecca extended her hand towards me. I took a step back. "Please refrain from making physical contact. Please refrain from calling me. Please refrain from sending me messages. Could you please share your destination?" Mark inquired, his tone shifting to one of concern. "I have come to the conclusion that this is not suitable for me." However, for his own benefit. Regarding my potential actions or statements. I offered him a smile at that moment. The type that fails to make contact with your gaze. "This matter no longer pertains to you, does it?" As I approached the door, bag in hand, Mark called out to me. "Please refrain from making any unwise decisions, Ellie. It is important to note that a significant portion of the assets in this context belongs to me." I halted at the entrance and glanced back. "You are correct, Mark. 50% of all assets belong to you." I observed all three individuals present, taking into account the potential consequences. I exited the room, ensuring the door was closed softly behind me. Not with a loud announcement, but with the subtle click of someone poised to return unexpectedly. The initial week was characterized by a series of hotel accommodations and unreturned communications. Mark attempted to contact me 67 times. Rebecca, age 42. Jenna, age 29. I meticulously tracked each notification as it emerged on my screen, each serving as a subtle indication of the growing concern on their part. What they were unaware of was that I was not disintegrating. I was not experiencing emotional distress in unrecognized hotel accommodations or resorting to excessive drinking in airport lounges. I engaged in contemplation, strategizing, and reflection. I recalled the evening 3 years prior when Mark had urged me to amend my life insurance policy to designate him as the sole beneficiary. "It is a sound financial decision," he stated. "Furthermore, we will age together over time." I recalled that Rebecca had taken a loan of $75,000 from me to sustain her boutique following her divorce, funds I had inherited from my mother, with her assurance to repay me once her business improved. The business has experienced an increase in activity. The funds have not been returned. I recalled how Jenna had gradually integrated herself into my client roster, consistently present whenever one of my high-profile interior design clients required urgent assistance while I was unavailable. She began to emulate my style, adopting my manner of speaking and incorporating my distinctive design elements. There were indications throughout, subtle betrayals culminating in the significant one. On the 9th day, I registered at a quaint bed and breakfast located on the outskirts of Portland, utilizing cash and a prepaid card for the transaction. I required some space. Viewpoint. The elderly owner, Martha, observed me closely and immediately sensed that something was amiss. "Is it a broken heart or a breach of trust?" she inquired while serving me tea that initial evening. "Is there a distinction?" I have provided my response. She acknowledged with a knowing nod. The heart mends over time. Broken trust leads to transformation. On that evening, I experienced tears for the first time. Not for Mark or my acquaintances, but for the woman I once was. Reliable. Dedicated. Unable to see. I permitted myself a single night to grieve. In the morning, I commenced making calls, starting with my father's former law firm, where his ex-partner Frank continues to practice. Following that, I reached out to the private investigator he had recommended, a woman named Diane who possesses a gravelly voice and a sharp intellect. Lastly, I contacted my bank to initiate a series of meticulous legal actions to safeguard my assets. In the interim, Mark's messages transitioned from expressions of concern to manifestations of anger, ultimately culminating in threats. "Ellie, I would appreciate it if you could return home so we can have a discussion. This approach of withholding communication is quite immature, Ellie. If you do not return home, I will take it as an indication that you have chosen to disengage from our marriage. I am currently in discussions with legal professionals, Ellie. Please refrain from complicating the situation unnecessarily." I did not provide a response to any of them. Allow him to believe that I was disintegrating. Allow him to perceive me as the weaker individual. Rebecca's communications were distinct. Emotional voice messages expressing surprise at the situation, emphasizing that it was insignificant, and highlighting the long-standing friendship we share, as if the value of that friendship was taken into account during her actions with my husband. Jenna exhibited a more straightforward approach. "We need to discuss matters related to our business, Ellie. Clients are inquiring. This does not pertain to my marriage. It is not concerning her betrayal. Concerning the enterprise. Regarding financial matters." 2 weeks following my departure, I received information from Diane indicating that they had established a routine. Mark is residing at our residence. Rebecca visits most evenings. Jenna will be participating with them on weekends. They were engaging in a role-playing activity in my residence. Expenditures of my funds. Enjoying my wine. Resting in my bed. Diane informed me that they have been contacting your clients via a secure line, informing them of a personal crisis that may affect your reliability for ongoing projects. Certainly, they were. They were attempting to systematically dismantle my life, piece by piece. What they did not anticipate was that I had been maintaining records, both literal and figurative. I possessed the emails indicating that Mark transferred funds from our joint account to his personal account. He stated this to maintain organization. I possessed the text messages in which Rebecca acknowledged utilizing my designs for her boutique without providing me with appropriate credit. I possess recordings of Jenna informing clients that she was essentially my partner, despite the fact that she was merely an occasional subcontractor. However, the most significant aspect was the hidden document I had uncovered 6 months prior during my search for our tax returns. The document that Mark believed was securely stored in his private safe. The document outlining the shell company he established to conceal assets from a prior relationship. The individual who now possessed significant financial resources, which he believed I was unaware of. I documented it through photography, resealed it, and returned it to its original condition. At that moment, I was uncertain about how to proceed with this information. I had exhibited excessive loyalty, misplaced trust, and a lack of discernment. I assured myself that there had to be a logical explanation. I have gained a deeper understanding. On day 17, I received a letter from a law firm representing Mark. It was indicated that as a result of my departure from the marital residence and my unwillingness to participate in reconciliation efforts, he intends to file for divorce on the basis of abandonment and is pursuing majority ownership of our shared assets, including my business, which he asserts to have significantly contributed to. I carefully reviewed the letter 3 times while seated at Martha's kitchen table. Subsequently, I found myself laughing. I found myself in fits of laughter, tears rolling down my cheeks, until Martha entered with a look of concern. "Unfavorable update?" she inquired. I cleared my eyes. I must decline. This is the confirmation I required. That evening, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. The image captured Mark, Rebecca, and Jenna at our preferred dining establishment, with champagne glasses elevated in a celebratory toast. It was sent without any accompanying message. It was unnecessary. The message was unequivocal. They believed they had achieved victory. The photo has been successfully saved. Proof of their celebration would enhance the enjoyment of their eventual downfall. They believed I was damaged. They assumed I was retreating, nursing my wounds, and disintegrating in the absence of my husband and friends, the foundational supports of my existence. They believed I was the same trusting, loyal Ellie they had exploited for years, but that version of me ceased to exist the moment I opened our bedroom door. The individual who took her place was someone they would not identify until it was beyond the point of no return. I invested my all in them. I reflected that night, gazing at their smiling faces on my phone screen, and they cast me aside as if I held no value. Their error was not recognizing the depth of my affection. It was a misjudgment of my capabilities. On day 23, I returned to the city, specifically to a service department within a building owned by one of my most dedicated clients. Alan Mercer was my inaugural significant client when I launched my interior design business. I transformed his penthouse from a sterile showroom into a welcoming home following the passing of his wife. At this moment, he was reciprocating the gesture. "Feel free to stay for as long as necessary," he said, presenting the keys to me. "I have informed Mark and your red-headed friend that I am solely interested in collaborating with you." I expressed my gratitude with a hug. "Have they reached out to all my clients?" Alan let out a dismissive snort. "Making an effort to. Failing to achieve success with those who are significant." That was a noteworthy experience, at the very least. However, I was aware that my business was not their primary focus. It encompassed all other aspects: the property, our financial assets, our standing within the relevant communities. Mark had consistently placed significant importance on appearances. I took the time to acclimate to the apartment and powered on my laptop for the first time since my departure. A multitude of emails awaited my attention, yet I chose to set them aside for the time being. I opted to utilize a secure messaging application to reach out to Diane. "I have returned, prepared for the next phase." She responded promptly. "Excellent. I have all the materials you requested. Are we scheduled for a meeting tomorrow?" We convened at a serene cafe located 3 neighborhoods distant from my typical venues. Diane appeared precisely as I had envisioned based on our phone conversations. Focused gaze, hair with silver highlights neatly secured in a practical ponytail. Attire selected based on practicality rather than style. She placed a USB drive on the table with precision. All elements are present: financial records, correspondence, images, along with the surveillance materials you requested. She savored a sip of her black coffee. "Your husband may not possess the level of cleverness he believes he has." "None of them are," I responded, placing the drive in my pocket. Diane acknowledged with a nod. "The documentation for the shell company is notably intriguing. It extends further back than you may have anticipated, prior to your marriage. There is a connection to Rebecca's boutique that may not have been previously known to you." I was not surprised, though I had not anticipated it either. He has been providing financial support for her? In addition to other matters. The boutique has experienced financial losses for several years. It serves as a facade. I experienced a sudden chill. What is the purpose? Diane's expression was serious. The primary focus is on money laundering. Minor in scale, yet unequivocally unlawful. There is a link to certain property developments that lacked the necessary permits. Environmental standards compromised. Safety regulations have been overlooked. I reflected on the time Mark dedicated to a friend's development project. He had felt a great sense of pride in the swift return. How he had dismissed my inquiries regarding the specifics. Is Jenna participating as well? Diane acknowledged with a nod. She has served as the liaison to several contractors. Their design consultancy provided them with a sense of legitimacy. The components were aligning effectively. This situation reflects not only my individual sense of betrayal, but also a broader trend of dishonesty. What is the status of the other matter? I inquired softly. Diane's gaze became more gentle. There have been multiple instances of access to your medical records by an individual utilizing Mark's login credentials on the health portal. Approximately 6 months ago, immediately following your most recent process, I instinctively placed my hand on my stomach. Following 3 miscarriages and 2 unsuccessful IVF attempts, the medical team has finally identified the underlying issue. A manageable condition that has impacted my capacity to carry a pregnancy to term. The treatment was effective. I successfully achieved natural conception. I intended to inform Mark on the evening I discovered him with my friends. He was aware, I murmured. Diane has confirmed this information. Additionally, there is more to consider. Rebecca has been obtaining prescription prenatal vitamins since approximately the same period. The cafe unexpectedly seemed cramped and uncomfortably warm. This has been under careful consideration. Everything. Diane refrained from providing superficial reassurances or expressions of sympathy. She acknowledged with a nod. It is uncommon for individuals to orchestrate betrayal of such intricacy. It is frequently a result of careful planning. I inhaled deeply, centering myself. I appreciate your attention to detail. It is my responsibility, she responded. However, her eyes reflected a deep sense of compassion. The utilization of this information is at your discretion. What I proceeded to do was systematic and deliberate. I initially reached out to Frank at my father's former law firm to discuss the findings that Diane had uncovered. His response was composed yet subtly influenced by personal feelings. He had been acquainted with me since my childhood, observed my development, and participated in my wedding. He assured me that he would prepare everything. Ellie, are you confident in this approach? It is thorough. I felt compelled to respond, given the circumstances. Subsequently, I contacted particular clients, not to solicit their business, but to provide thoughtfully curated insights regarding the behind-the-scenes activities of Mark and Jenna. Insufficient to appear vengeful, merely adequate to instill uncertainty. I scheduled an appointment with my doctor to verify my existing knowledge. The results of the test were positive. I was in my 8th week of pregnancy. Despite the circumstances, a subtle sense of joy persisted within me. This child would belong to me. This is solely mine. While others perceived my silence as retreat or struggle, I was diligently constructing my argument step by step. I executed a transfer of funds from accounts that Mark was not aware of. Authorized savings that I had maintained separately. It was not born from distrust at first, but rather from a habit that my father had ingrained in me. It is essential to maintain your own financial independence, Ellie. It is not a matter of lacking trust in others, but rather the necessity of placing trust in oneself first. I meticulously documented all aspects of the shell company, ensuring that backups were created for every backup. I successfully retrieved deleted texts from cloud backups that Mark had overlooked. I assembled a group of witnesses, including contractors who had not received payment, employees from Rebecca's boutique who were compensated in cash off the books, and clients who had been misled by Jenna regarding false claims of partnership. Throughout this period, Mark's legal threats intensified. The formal correspondence evolved into legal documentation, initiating divorce proceedings that referenced my unpredictable conduct and absence. He insisted not only on the house but also on a share of my business, asserting that he had been a crucial advisor from the outset. What he was unaware of was that I had already retained not only Frank, but also 2 additional attorneys with expertise in various facets of the impending situation. One for the divorce proceedings, one for the protection of business interests, and one for the criminal ramifications of what Diane had discovered. On day 37, I received another message from the unidentified number, accompanied by a photo of the three individuals, this time taken in our living room. Documents are meticulously arranged on the coffee table, exuding an air of seriousness and determination as they strategize for success. I have also preserved this photograph, serving as additional evidence, further solidifying the case against them. That evening, I found myself in Alan's apartment, gazing at the city lights, one hand gently placed on my still flat stomach. They believe I am in motion, I conveyed to my unborn child, yet I have never been more composed, more concentrated, more assured. I dedicated weeks to collecting resources, constructing defenses, and strategizing for the impending conflict. At this moment, the decision to act was upon them, not driven by anger or urgency, but with the calculated precision of an individual who believed they had nothing left to lose, having already faced significant loss, or so it seemed. In that moment, I found myself at the pinnacle of my strength, poised on the brink of dismantling those who had sought to undermine me. I am prepared, I quietly affirmed to myself, to my child, and to the universe that has guided me to this moment. Tomorrow, the initial step will be taken. Day 45 arrived with a clear and crisp atmosphere, embodying the essence of a perfect autumn morning for what I had come to regard as a pivotal moment. I meticulously donned a cream-colored suit that was entirely new to me, one that Mark had not previously encountered, and devoid of any ties to my former life. My hair underwent a transformation as well, styled in a sleek bob that accentuated my features more distinctly than my former look. Minor adjustments, yet they hold significant meaning. The woman entering the battlefield was not the same individual who had previously retreated. My initial destination was the offices of Mercer Holdings, the company owned by Alan, where Mark was set to present a new investment opportunity to the board, an opportunity primarily derived from the illicit developments that Diane had revealed. I had not disclosed all the details to Alan, only what was necessary. He had scheduled a 5-minute slot for me at the start of the meeting to address a design issue pertaining to the proposal. Mark was unaware of my arrival. The atmosphere in the boardroom shifted to quiet as I entered. 12 individuals are positioned around a large table, with Mark at the head, prepared with presentation materials. His expression upon seeing me reflected a swift transition of emotions: surprise, frustration, apprehension, and ultimately a compelled expression of positivity. "Ellie," he stated, regaining his composure swiftly, "this is quite surprising. Could it be?" I responded, maintaining a steady tone. I acknowledged Alan with a nod as he signaled for me to take the floor. "Mr. Mercer has allocated a few minutes for me to discuss an important aspect related to today's presentation." I addressed the room, stating that I would keep my remarks concise. Mark's smile became more restrained. "Ellie, this is not the appropriate setting for personal discussions. This is a matter of business, Mark. Indeed it is. I have established a connection between my tablet and the display system. I understand that you are here to discuss a potential investment in the Westlake Development Project." The board members acknowledged the information, displaying a mix of confusion and interest. Prior to making that investment, it is important to be aware that Westlake Development has been subject to a federal investigation for the last 3 months due to several violations related to building codes, environmental regulations, and tax laws. Mark's complexion lost its vibrancy. "That is quite unreasonable. I would like to know if you would as well." I accessed the initial document, an official notification from the Environmental Protection Agency. This was provided 2 weeks ago. I proceeded to the next document. "Are the Labor Department's findings regarding wage theft applicable to 3 Westlake locations?" A board member leaned forward. "Is this confirmed?" I confirmed my response and proceeded to distribute the files to all attendees in the room. I possess documentation indicating that my husband has been receiving kickbacks from Westlake for directing investments towards them. Proposals for investments such as the one he is presenting today. Mark was stammering, glancing between me and the board repeatedly. "This represents a personal vendetta. My spouse and I are currently navigating the process of divorce." "Indeed, we are," I responded with composure. "However, this is unrelated to the documents, which have been submitted to the appropriate authorities. I am ensuring that Mercer Holdings remains unaffected by any potential conflicts." Alan then rose to his feet. It would be prudent to defer this presentation until we have verified these claims. Mark, it may be beneficial for you to allocate some time to resolve these matters. It was not a suggestion. Mark's gaze met mine with intensity. Intense animosity. He expressed his frustration sharply while collecting his materials. "Indeed, I do," I responded softly. "This marks the initial phase." I proceeded to Rebecca's boutique, arriving precisely as the lunchtime shopping crowd began to gather. She observed me through the front window and paused, a dress partially draped on a rack. Upon entering, the bell above the door signaled my arrival to all present in the shop. "Ellie," she stated, her voice elevated and strained. "I have been attempting to contact you. I am aware." I greeted the customers browsing the racks with a smile. "I apologize for the interruption, but I would like to speak briefly with the owner." "Corporate issue." Rebecca guided me to the back office, the space I had assisted her in designing, featuring the custom desk I sourced from an estate sale and refinished personally. "Ellie, I would like to discuss the recent events." I must interject at this point. I am not addressing the matter of your involvement with my husband. I would like to discuss the $75,000 that you borrowed from me. She blinked with urgency. I mentioned that business has been challenging. I will reimburse you when. However, business has not been particularly challenging, has it? Your tax returns do not support that statement. I positioned a folder on her desk. There have been recorded losses on paper, despite the cash transactions occurring that remain unreported. Mark has been assisting you with financial transactions through this establishment for an extended period. Her complexion turned pale. That cannot be substantiated. I am indeed capable of that. My previous assistant Trina proved to be quite resourceful once I clarified the potential implications of her involvement. I accessed the folder to present Trina's sworn statement to her. She maintained her own documentation. Intelligent young woman. Rebecca took a seat in her chair with a sense of exhaustion. "What is your request?" "The amount of $75,000, along with an additional 5% interest, should be transferred to this account by the close of business today." I provided her with the details along with your resignation from the West Side Women's Charity Board. I believe they would consider your recent activities to be misaligned with their mission. Rebecca served as a founder of the charity. Her role there is an essential component of her meticulously developed public persona. "You're undermining my existence," she whispered. I provided her with the necessary corrections. "I am merely reciprocating the gesture that you three extended to me. The distinction lies in the fact that my actions are conducted within the bounds of the law." I prepared to depart. "Additionally, Rebecca, I have already communicated with the building owner. He expresses a strong interest in the cash-only sublease you have been managing from the back storage room." I departed, leaving her in a state of contemplation, fixated on the folder that held sufficient evidence to jeopardize her position. The concluding destination of my day proved to be the most gratifying. A meeting with Jenna and her key client, the Parkers, at their residence. A comprehensive renovation was being planned. A project valued at more than $500,000. Jenna's expression upon my entrance into the Parkers' living room was truly remarkable. A facade of calmness barely masking her underlying anxiety. "Ellie, I was unaware that you would be joining us today," she remarked, her voice tense. Mrs. Taylor asserted her position, while Mrs. Parker provided clarification, appearing perplexed. She indicated that there was a significant matter regarding the project that required her to address it in person. "Indeed," I confirmed, taking a seat across from them. "Mrs. Parker, you engaged Jenna with the understanding that she and I were business associates, is that correct?" Mrs. Parker acknowledged with a nod. "Affirmative. She mentioned that you are collaborating on an expansion and that you will be providing remote consultation for our project." I offered a sincere smile of apology. "That information appears to be incorrect. Jenna has not been my partner at any point. She has served as a subcontractor on my projects on occasion. However, we do not have any business relationship in place." Jenna responded promptly. "A miscommunication occurred. We engage in collaboration on a regular basis." I proceeded to present copies of emails from my portfolio. "You informed the Parkers that a new partnership named Elite Interiors had been established between us, which is not the case." You presented a portfolio that features a minimum of 15 projects in which you had no participation. Mrs. Parker directed her gaze towards Jenna, her expression becoming more severe. Is this accurate? Jenna hesitated, seeking a way out. It is. The situation is complex. Ellie and I engaged in a discussion. I firmly stated that we never discussed anything of that nature. I have prepared documentation for all my projects, detailing the individuals who contributed to each one. I submitted the portfolio to Mrs. Parker. I am sharing this with you not out of malice, but because you deserve transparent service for your investment. Mrs. Parker was reviewing the portfolio, while her husband observed her with a growing concern. Mr. Parker finally addressed Jenna, stating, I believe it is time for you to leave. We will be conducting a review of our contract with our attorney. As Jenna collected her belongings, casting a piercing glare in my direction, I delivered one last, calculated remark. Jenna, I wanted to let you know that I have notified the Design Association regarding the discrepancies in your portfolio. Your membership status is currently under review. For an individual whose life and legacy were deeply intertwined with her professional relationships, this was a significant setback. Following Jenna's abrupt departure, I dedicated an additional hour to engaging with the Parkers, candidly addressing